Good evening. This is the Planning Board, Newmarket Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, June 14th, 2011. It's 7:03. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point on the agenda, I'll open up the meeting for public comments, those items that are not on the agenda. Kind of an underwhelming response. I'll close the public comment period. Next will be the review and approval of minutes of May 17. Are there any? Yes, sir, Peter.
I'm sure that our town planner has caught the fact that it was originally dated the 18th and should be the 17th.
Oh, no, I did not. Thank you for your astute observations.
That's all I have.
That's it. Any other additions, deletions, corrections from the minutes of May 17? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept as amended?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We have the good fortune of having Rick McMiniman apply again for a alternate position, and we're happy to see Rick indicate an interest in coming back to the planning board. There are no other applicants that I'm aware of. Is that correct, Diane?
That is correct.
Is there a motion to nominate Rick McMiniman?
I'd like to make that motion to accept Mr. McMiniman's application to become an alternate to the board.
Second.
For the term expiration date of May 2014.
14, right.
2014.
Thank you.
Made and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just like to say I'm very happy that Rick placed his name in. We can use his expertise when one of us is out, and always welcome his input.
Great. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Welcome back, Rick. We appreciate that.
Come on up.
Oh,
Come on up and sit with us.
I'm not sworn in, do I have to be sworn?
oh, you have to be sworn.
That's true.
It's true.
That's true.
See, already he's advising us.
Already he corrects us. Next on the agenda is the review of the draft chapter of the Master Plan Economic Development. As a bit of background, some time ago, there was a subcommittee put together of planning board and other members of the business community in town to take on the task of redrafting the update of the master plan, Chapter 6. And what we have in front of us tonight is the result of a lot of work, especially from Diane Hardy, with some assistance of a consultant that was hired, and input from a lot of other folks. Diane has been really the person who's done the majority of the work on this, and it's an excellent piece of work product, and I really appreciate your hard effort on it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All of you have had copies, hard copies, electronic copies and hard copies, and the opportunity to have a chance to review it. And I guess I would look for general input from the board, specific input, editorial corrections, and so on. But the purpose tonight is to deal with any issues, corrections, and so on that you might have. And then what I'd like to do is schedule this for a public hearing at the July meeting, which is July 12th, is that correct?
That is correct.
And assuming that it's in agreement with the board and we take the input from the public hearing, we would send it on.
The planning board adopts
Adopts it.
master plan, but
Right.
we thought it might be a nice idea to make a formal
Make a
presentation
presentation to the town council.
to town council.
So, having said that, has everyone here had a chance to review it? And I guess we're looking for some comments and input at this point.
I have two very minor typo corrections.
All right?
On page 5, Diane, in the sixth from the bottom line, just take the hyphen out of the word increased.
Where the heck are you?
Right.
Oh, yes.
And then the other one is on page 57. Under 2004's activity, the pines, rather than the pine.
Thank you.
That's the extent of my big deal research.
I did notice that I omitted your name from the list of planning board members.
See, and I didn't even see that.
Inadvertently, and that was because I was modifying your title. So I will put your name back in the list, and please forgive me for the oversight.
So you had me on the Economic Development Committee. That was
I did.
Thank you.
Okay.
Justin, you have any comments or corrections?
I haven't gotten through the entire master plan, but I haven't come up with any objections or revisions yet.
Okay. You can email those to Diane if there's anything that you think needs correction.
Please do.
Val?
Might be a better way for me to deal with this as well. I certainly have read through the entire chapter. Diane, you did a great job
Thank you.
on it. Obviously, a lot of work, a lot of information, for any boards who are deliberating on regulations or rendering decisions. So I've gotten through, as far as from an editorial perspective, about half of it.
Okay.
And
Do you want to hold
either-
off, and when you get through that, submit it to me, and I'd be happy to make those
yeah,
changes?
I can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have just one general comment that I think might be worthwhile talking about, because I think the Black Bear TIF area, being a major area for redevelopment, I just think one item that would be really good to add into the plan, or to comment on within the master plan, is why that TIF was developed to begin with. And there was an actual plan for access from 108 into there.
Some history?
Yes,
the
and I have
original
all of
plan?
that, so
Okay.
if it's not available.
I do have a copy of, there's like a 2 or 3 page public information piece that was put out at the time that both the TIF districts were created, and it provided some information. Does it address the access?
Yeah,
Because I have
definitely, it
that.
was all about the access, because the funding for setting up Black Bear, the bonding was to provide for the access over the Voyner property, and then across, elevated over the railroad tracks and into Black Bear. I think that would be important, because it could be a third option still.
Yeah.
I mean, that
the
was the
third option
basis
is
for it
mentioned in
to
here.
set up.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to work with you in getting that information and making sure that it's reflected in the report.
Right.
It's great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Janice?
We have yes, you did a very good job. I just had a question, and maybe, I read this about a week when it first came out. I should know if it was about a week ago or half a week ago, and so that was quite a while ago, and I should have highlighted it. Who's responsible for changing zoning? So areas, and I bring this up only because I watched the zoning board, and I saw where one applicant came in front of the zoning board and could not get his project approved, the zoning board of adjustment, I should say, because the zoning was not in that area. It seems to me if we want to encourage economic growth in our community, the zoning should be changed beforehand, so we welcome communities to come with those new concepts, which a lot of other cities and towns have that concept, the mixed use of residential, apartments on top and the business on the bottom. That's the only way a lot of businesses can make it work today. Just as we did with the mill, we made some exceptions for that mill to work for the downtown area. And I just think the zoning should be in place beforehand, so people don't have to come and go through
Right.
more hoops and jumps.
I think
And I don't
there's-
know whose responsibility that is. I think it's ours, I'm not quite sure.
Planning boards.
So maybe that's something that, as a whole, that we could incorporate. It may be in here, but like I said, I read this quickly about a week ago when the electronic draft came through.
There is a section that talks about changes to land use regulations, and there's a general recommendation that the planning board do an overview, or do a review, rather, of all of our commercial and industrial zoning districts to make sure that they still make sense. And there may be a need for make some changes to kind of bring them up to more contemporary standards, and also to make sure that there are no obstacles to development that are kind of hidden obstacles, unintended obstacles. And certainly it's within the purview of the planning board to review and to make recommendations to the town council, who ultimately would change the zoning.
I think there's has been a consensus on the planning board that that project needs to be taken on. And Val and I have discussed this, and we tend to take on one project a year, and this project took a little longer than a year, but it's coming to a close. And I think the next project that the planning board should take on is a thorough review of the land use chart and the zoning. And as I said, Bill and I have discussed that, and I think she might be ready to volunteer to lead that challenge. So, and I agree, it needs to be done. I know of the application before the ZBA of which you speak, and it's unfortunate that happened that way, and that's not good. So I would say probably this probably should start and be initiated as soon as we get this tucked away.
We could set up a subcommittee
Yep.
to start working on some zoning
Yeah.
changes.
Absolutely.
I'll help you, Bill.
Great.
There you go.
Great.
There's two.
Anyone else?
We'll get someone who's not here.
I was really happy to see about the, in your chart, to hire an economic consultant, because as great as the job that this has done and all the volunteers have done on this project, you need someone that is their main and only focus, is to move this town into a positive light if we're going to grow with new businesses or industries. And I was happy to see that. That was a conclusion.
Yeah, of course the challenge is always the budget. So.
Well, I know, and the challenge is to convince, if you can't get a grant, is to maybe put some money as a part-time consultant in the budget to convince the town council that if you're serious about moving this town, that's what you have to do. You can't just sit here and say, oh, let's try to put a little ad in the newspaper or whatever. That's not going to do it. We need to be really proactive if they're serious.
That's why
And it's going to take time still, even with that being proactive.
That's why the committee was hoping that the planning board would take it to the next step, go to the town council, make a formal recommendation, sell the recommendations, and see if we can move forward in that direction. So we were hoping to maybe do that in August or September, and certainly it would be great to have some company when we go to the town council and make that presentation.
I'll be there. You did a very good job.
Good, thank you.
Just to kind of continue with that thought, I think another option that we may wish to pursue is to actually meet with the NCDC, whose actual charter in the town is the responsibility for growth and prosperity when it was started. I mean, that's the Articles of Incorporation. And their mission, is relative to community and economic development. I think if the planning board had a joint meeting with the NCDC, or if some of the planning board members went to the NCDC, and we were looking to have them assist us with this consultant, or with some kind of more in-depth analysis of what type of economic development the residents and the taxpayers want to see here, where they want to see it, and then obviously the planning board can look at the outcome of that to figure out how we need to modify any zoning related to that specific area to accommodate that. When the mills were being redeveloped, there was extensive public comments and visioning and charrettes that were done, and the downstairs town hall was filled with types of businesses that residents wanted to see in this town. And I think that that's important, that prior work is incorporated into the update of the economic development chapter. And that maybe it is the NCDC that we can go to initially to seek assistance with doing exactly as Janice has described, as opposed to, trying to look, into the general fund for initial financial assistance.
Yeah, they have a very,
And they have a great track record with it.
That's right.
When they have the Cecil Group, or even when we were interviewing commercial brokers who have the research arms of their large organizations that do this type of work.
One of the recommendations that we discussed in our committee was possibly hiring, or maybe the University of New Hampshire through cooperative extension. They have an individual who sort of specializes in community facilitation, and they've worked with communities, and they've done these community visioning processes, so to speak, and that they might be interested in taking on Newmarket as a project. Another option is there's a group in New Hampshire called Plan New Hampshire, and they do design charrettes. Usually it's on a more focused, specific property, but perhaps we might be able to get some grant assistance through them to do some kind of a visioning. And we discussed that with NCDC, and they seemed receptive as well.
That work is not that old, maybe 7, 8 years ago.
Right.
It'd be a good starting point. I mean, certainly be good use of the $100,000 that, it cost for that consulting work.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Not at this time.
I had I'm sorry.
Mr.
Oh.
Minimum wants to speak.
When it becomes appropriate. All right, say no.
I had a couple editorial comments, but my question is on page 22. Is that map, or the conceptual layout, the latest one that was presented?
That is the latest one that Mr. Landry presented to us. Maybe we might get something a little more detailed before we actually go to print.
Okay.
But that's the plan that he submitted to us at the May 17th meeting.
Some revisions, like, when you come in the entrance.
I'm sorry, I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
You don't think this is the most current one?
No, because
Okay.
it doesn't show the fitness center.
Well, okay.
I have-
There were two plans. He submitted the first one with the fitness center, and then the next day he sent me this one. He said, I'd prefer if you use this one for the presentation to the
Oh.
planning board. So that's why I used this one and not the earlier
Okay.
one. But I think that's the only difference, is the fitness center. And I'm not sure what his reasoning for that was.
I'm a little confused as to why this is included in our master plan
Seems
chapter. It would seem to me that the master plan is kind of what the goals and objectives are. And obviously, one of the, if we add the information about what the town residents and taxpayers were looking for, one of the biggest need is for a grocery store. And then the outcome of the master plan is for either the economic development consultant or the planning board to figure out zoning, where to make this happen. But I didn't understand why this was part of the
I
chapter.
think it was because it has been in the master plan for a long time, for over 20 years, and it was discussed in terms of recent economic activity to sort of set a backdrop, if you will.
Yeah, I had the same
Show
comment there.
what's going on in Newmarket right now, so that if a developer was interested in maybe doing some work, they could look and say, gee, it sounds like Newmarket's in a very progressive mode right now, and that there's good things that are going on, and that the prospects for future economic development are positive. So that's why it was couched in terms of recent economic activity.
So maybe it needs to be under a whole second kind of section. Because under other economic development activity, there are items there that have been approved. the vinyl, this Newmarket storage. And then 21. And then it goes into potential type developments, the investors' interest in building a state-of-the-art green technology facility. I just didn't see where, from that point forward, the grocery store belonged in the master plan. But I understand where you're coming from, Diane.
Maybe
Would
there's,
you have a recommended other location? Because I'm certainly
I just
willing
think it
and open
kinds
to
to be,
consider
needed to be
that.
separated out, and I'll make that comment in my email.
Okay.
How about if it was moved to the challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, because that's a big
section?
challenge. We need a grocery store in town.
All right.
I think my question to tag along with what Val has had to say is that maybe we don't need to include a plot plan or a site plan of the development.
Okay.
The fact that we mention it, I don't think is terribly out of order, and maybe moving that would make it even more comfortable for some of us, but it just seems that, we haven't got too much development proposed, so I realize that we have to recognize it. But if this is a 10-year lasting document, I don't know if we want to look back and see the grocery store that was proposed.
Right.
Why don't we put it in the challenges and opportunities section and couch it in terms of, even though we've experienced a recession in the last couple of years, there's signs of new growth, and
As of the date of this
mention
writing, we have a
proposal for
proposal for-
a grocery store. This is something that has been in the town's master plan for many years, and it's a positive sign that things are turning around for the town, or things are moving forward, or something. Couch it in terms of that. And then take out the conceptual plan, because I don't think we want to mislead anyone that this is the concept necessarily that we're going to end up with as part of this proposal. And given that it's a longer range document than the lifetime of this specific proposal, then I think that makes sense to take it out.
And maybe that's the section, or wherever, that this whole list of needs for what we don't have in town that people want would be called out. Because there's a lot of types of businesses in town that we don't have here, or maybe that residents don't know about when you sent out the list of the businesses. I think that was great that you added that. Because I think that's pretty impressive, the number of businesses we do have in town.
Right.
That people just may not be aware of and think
Yep.
about, supporting.
Okay, we'll make that move. And then any other changes that anyone has after tonight, email them to Diane. Now I'd like to open this up to the vast audience out here. Mr. McMiniman, you had a comment?
A couple of questions is what I have. Rick McMenamin, potential alternate. I guess first of all, while you people are speaking, I'm sitting the first row, I can barely hear you. So I don't know how they can be on the microphones at home, but I think you need to speak up a little when you're talking. Number two, is this part of the master plan, or is this something you're going to present to potential individuals who are interested into moving into the town or creating a business into the town?
This is
It's
a
both.
rewrite of Chapter 6 of the master plan.
Okay.
There will be things that will fall from this as you go through and you look at the recommendations in the back regarding an economic development activity, staffing, a series of recommendations, responsibilities, and so on. There are things that will fall from this, but this is a rewrite of Chapter 6.
All right, so it's not intended to hand out to prospective individuals who are going to
No, but it
create a
could be.
business?
It
Yeah,
could be,
it
but
could be
no,
a
that's-
marketing
okay.
tool,
It
sure.
could be a marketing tool, but that's not the intention.
Okay. One of the things I thought would be interesting to see in this would be the numbers for the breakdown of residents who live in the town, i.e. retired or over 65, the working
Demographics.
class, and students, because I think students are a very, very big portion of this town. A lot of people living in these apartments are students over at UNH, et cetera.
One of the frustrations that I have with the data that's in here is is that it's old data. Even though the census was taken in 2010, our federal government and its, well, I won't go there, I guess. Anyway, we may not be able to get 2010 census data, demographics that you're
Okay.
suggesting until maybe another year or two.
Oh, all right then. Then I'll skip over my comments about this because it was about students and I was just questioning the numbers, but that's all right. Let me just skip to this page. When I was on the Stratford Planning Commission, on page 18, you mentioned airport at Pease International, Tradesport. I don't think they're doing much commercial flying out of Pease right now, and I don't think they plan any in the near future. At least that's the last thing I heard when I was at the Stratford Planning Commission, but you might want to check on that.
Commercial air cargo.
Okay.
The other thing is that I noticed you on the next page, page 19, you show the tax rates for ourselves, Durham, Lee, Epping, and Newfield. And I was thinking if somebody came into the town, as they come in, they drive through Exeter and Stratham, and, I know they're lower than ours, but I think, something like that should be included. I mean, to present an honest representation of the tax rates in the surrounding areas. We may not be the best, but we have other things to offer.
So you want to add Exeter and Stratham?
Stratham,
Dover, Port, I think it should be all the communities we're competing with for businesses.
Dover, Durham, and Portsmouth, I would probably think you'd want. And cutting out some of the other stuff. On Appendix C, page 52, this is just an article, a correction of, under tax increment financing, the last line needs to readjust the spacing. It's spread out on my report as...
Yeah, it's center justified. Right.
No, it's actually, it's
Oh.
right, and...
Pagination.
Right and left, yeah.
No, that is the problem, it's justified.
Yeah, it's justified.
It's
Exactly
justified,
correct, but
right.
I think you can fix that one, and under rural development, the third line down, you have the exact same thing. And the top of the next page,
Tourism, thank
you
you.
have the exact same thing.
Yeah. Here.
Okay.
I had asked earlier about Rockingham Ballroom.
Sure. That was in the original, I thought.
Yeah, but it wasn't
I hear
listed, excuse me, I shouldn't say yeah. Yes, it was, but it wasn't listed with an address
Where are you
or a
at?
type of business. Under Appendix D, page 54. I think it's Ash Swamp Road,
Oh,
but I'm not
okay.
sure of the number.
Yeah.
And it's a
Page.
reception
Wait a minute.
hall, I would call it.
So you're just saying it's missing from the appendix.
On this report, it was, Appendix D.
Rockingham.
But there's a lot of business.
So isn't the type of business of Kenton Pelza Funeral Home.
Are you-
I guess we
He's
can
referring-
include
you're referring
that.
to this?
Referring to this one, the one in the
The one in the book.
book. That was just taken from the,
And it wasn't in that one at all for the ballroom that I could see. And I think that on the same report, number 75, I saw you combined it in the new report, but I think it's not Irving Circle K anymore. I think it's just Circle K.
It is Circle K. And Sue, I thought, corrected that.
No, it's listed as Irving Circle K. And that's all the comments I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave this
Yes.
comments period, may I make a couple of comments?
Of course.
Diane, there are a couple of blanks here, one on page 13, one on
Yeah.
page
I noticed
15.
that too, and I think that was a formatting thing. Right.
The total numbers
should take
of
that
the
out.
workers. Want to take it out?
Yeah.
Okay. That
I
has to
think
do
it's in the
with,
text. I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if it's meaningful to the diagram or not, the pie chart. And then the other thing was, it's mentioned on page 18, in the middle of the page, the last sentence of paragraph headed Table 612. The commercial category also includes multifamily homes and buildings, and then down below, we recap commercial, industrial, and I wondered if we could pull out of that, extrapolate, whatever the word is, how much of that number is multifamily? And that has to do with the assessed values and so forth.
There was a reason why I couldn't do that. I think it's because this data comes straight from a report that's filed with the Division of Revenue Administration, and the classification system is the way that they categorize the data for purposes of that report. And to go back and to try to pull that out would be a major, major undertaking
All right, well,
to do that.
I can understand that, but I think perhaps it should be addressed up above where that sentence comes in, the commercial category also includes multifamily homes and buildings, maybe something to the effect that, but for the,
Okay.
that the statistics are not easily compiled for multifamily,
So you
however you
want-
say it.
Well, is this misleading? That,
Well, it leads
Are
me
they-
to
are
wonder
they
how much is multifamily
including-
and it's not there.
are they defining multifamily as apartment buildings? 4+ unit apartment buildings under the DRA versus 85% of the town's total valuation comes from single-family homes. I would question that when I read it, because I would think that what they're including then when you go into the data is condominium units, duplexes.
Right.
I don't think it falls under multifamily homes, but I could be wrong. I mean, is Moody Point or Bryant Rock under the 85% single-family category, or are they under the multifamily category?
I don't know. I'd have to go
Yeah.
back and look at the source data. I'm just taking this right from the reports that are filed with the DRA
By the assessor.
by the assessor.
And I think that's what you'll find is how they define multifamily.
And maybe that's all we need is
4+
a
unit.
definition in there that
You
leads
need
the
to
reader.
qualify it,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Yeah. Because I think that I think we came up with a single-family home descriptive, as opposed to just residential, non-multifamily residential.
Okay. I think just qualifying it would be probably
Yeah, I just-
satisfactory. If the data's not there, it's not there.
I mean, the data is, and the form that it's in is the form that it's in. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't
Yeah, I
control that
understand.
or regulate that.
But the statement is saying that only 15% of our assessed valuation is coming from multifamily and commercial.
I'll see if I can get some definitions to include.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience would like to make a comment?
I should be brief, but Jerry O'Connell, 26 Grant Road. I was on the Economic Development Committee, or still am, and I just want to talk in support of what has been done so far. And, I think the town needs to move in the right direction, and we need to make some changes that will help it do that. And this is a big step in that way. And then moving on from there, we still need to make sure that we take the steps after this, now that this Section 6 has been rewritten, and look at our zoning, all the different things, what areas are zoned commercially, residentially, and so on, and potentially setbacks as well, so that we can move forward in a way that the town becomes much more attractive to attract businesses and spread out our tax base, not just the 85% that we have if it is single-family residential. It'll help everybody. And I just wanted to say that I'm, as part of this, I want to thank all the members as well who helped on it and did a great job on it, and I think it's something that the town needs to support.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Anybody else in the audience? Say anything? We've had 2/3 of the audience comment on it.
Ladies with the newspaper.
Okay, anything else?
I just had a question, a comment.
One?
Just one, a
Okay.
quick one. Because as I look at this, I know about 15 other little companies that are not listed on this, this is a great list. I'm not
If
knocking
you want
it.
to update it
But what I was
for
gonna
me, I'd
say-
be happy to
No, what I was going
include
to
it.
say is I think a better thing is if you put some sort of a little slide on Channel 13's asking if you could place this list somewhere, and for those businesses that want to be listed, have a time frame for them to contact you by. If they don't, then you know you've done the best to outreach to everybody who owns a small business in the district.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Good idea. See if we can get that on Channel 13 and ask people to comment on it and expand it and so on.
That way you
Okay?
can't be accused of leaving anybody off.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
No, we don't.
Okay. So the idea is that Diane will take these comments and anything that's emailed in the very near future. Give her some time to update for the
Yeah,
July
12th meeting.
12 meeting. And we'll have a public hearing then on it. And then we'll move forward with it.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yep.
Great. Any new business? Any old business? Val?
Under old business regarding the Mark Jacobs report on the Solon Realty Trust Wadley Falls property, the Conservation Commission did discuss that at their last meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't present, but I received a notice from one of the members relative to the discussion, which I reported to Diane and Dan Vincent with their comments. So there were several items within the Mark Jacobs report that they took exception to and wanted follow-up action on.
When does the Conservation Commission meet again, Val? Because I can
That would be
get the comments
July
over to him and
14th.
have them respond.
Should be the second Thursday in July.
Okay.
So you'll
if we got
forward-
the-
you'll
I'll
forward
forward it
those?
to Mark Jacobs and also to the RCCD,
That would be great.
since they're reviewing the plan and have reviewed the plan, and have some justification provided. And I will send that back to you once I receive it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll let Drew know.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other old business? Any other new business?
Want me to make a motion?
I think so.
I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any comments or discussion about the adjournment motion?
No.
No? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.